Thanks for being here. Subscribe to Cheating Stories Best so you don't miss new stories.
I have witnessed the harmful effects of money on people many times, but I never expected my own wife to succumb to this influence. Our life was peaceful and prosperous, and we didn't lack anything until a rich man seduced my wife with a sum of money in exchange for spending a few nights with her. Skeptical at first, I soon realized what a dangerous trap I had fallen into. My wife, Lucy, and I work for the same marketing firm. She is a customer service representative, although I am not entirely sure about the details of her role beyond customer interaction. I am Mark, and I lead a team of IT specialists. Our lives went on as usual. We were happy, worked hard, and were satisfied with each other. We also successfully renovated our house in the style of fixer-upper. We have two wonderful children, 13-year-old Emma and 11-year-old Daniel. We lived next to our families and had a close group of friends. At 32, we balanced each other well, although Lucy was clearly superior to me in appearance. With her tall stature, long blonde hair, and amazing blue eyes, Lucy exuded a high Scandinavian beauty reflecting her Swedish ancestry. She is lively and full of energy, constantly on the move. I am taller than her, with sandy hair, and I prefer heavy sports such as cycling and running, which has led to a slim build, physically strong but not too muscular. I was surprised when I received an invitation to spend a long weekend on a private island owned by a client of our company. Our CEO, Jack Edwards, told me that he and his wife, Margaret, as well as several directors and their partners, would also be coming. I also received an invitation to travel. It seemed that my presence was expected, but I remembered the saying, "Don't look a gift horse in the mouth." Jack explained that the client was very rich. He was the largest client of the firm, and that we would fly out early on Friday morning and return on Monday on a private charter, with all expenses paid. Lucy already knew about this trip and seemed impressed, as she had been working closely with the client for several months. I was looking forward to the upcoming free weekend. When I asked her to tell me more about the weekend, Lucy felt like I didn't have enough information. Curious, I asked about the client. Lucy told me that his name was William Fellows and that she estimated him to be about 40 years old. She described him as a handsome, confident man who inherited a family fortune. It was obvious that she was somewhat infatuated with him. His demeanor radiated strength and control, leaving me with the impression of a man who was both formidable and calm. Despite my initial misgivings, I silently acknowledged his imposing presence and decided to hold off on conclusions. 2 weeks passed, and soon we were flying on a private charter plane on Friday morning. The sight of the luxurious plane delighted me and made me wonder how rich its owner was. As we approached the island, I couldn't stop being amazed at its vastness and grandeur, wondering what other surprises were waiting for us. When we descended to the ground, the expanses spread out in front of us. It was a luxurious 5-star resort, the main buildings of which were elegantly hidden behind a perfect crescent of white sandy beach. This sight took our breath away. Lucy was indescribably delighted, and the others did not lag behind her in their awe. As soon as we landed, we were warmly welcomed and escorted to our luxurious apartments. After we settled in, the host and I were invited to a delicious lunch on the veranda, which had a stunning view of the bay below. The calm atmosphere only increased our anticipation of the adventures that awaited us during our stay here. I was prepared for the fact that I would not like him, but William turned out to be quite reasonable. In fact, Lucy had underestimated his charm. There was something of George Clooney about him. He thanked us for coming and made us feel welcome. We chatted with other couples from our firm and met a stunning brunette named Charlotte, who I understood was William's weekend guest. In addition to the waiters, there was a lone figure in the hall. It seemed a security guard, who calmly watched from the sidelines without any official introductions. I couldn't help but wonder why William needed security on a seemingly uninhabited island. Despite this, William greeted Lucy warmly, treating her like an old friend, and they all communicated with a sense of ease and familiarity. It was obvious that she and the rest of the group respected William's judgment and followed his example, given his exceptional generosity as a host and the fact that he was our company's most valuable customer. Such positive feedback was quite natural. Our day was truly exceptional, as we enjoyed activities such as snorkeling and paddleboarding in the bay and just had a great time. The abundance of free drinks and food kept the mood light, and eventually, we gathered for a group dinner. The atmosphere was friendly and relaxed, which allowed us to communicate in a close circle. It was at this time that Charlotte introduced herself to us. She radiated charm as she talked about her childhood in England. Despite seeming to come from a wealthy family, she showed genuine kindness. I couldn't help but wonder if she was a model or simply didn't need a job. Despite her flirtatious behavior, even in front of Lucy, I chose to attribute it to her overly friendly nature. It was very nice to be pampered without the presence of children, which gave me a much-needed opportunity to relax. The picturesque location, set against a stunning landscape, created the perfect setting for a romantic evening. Lucy, overwhelmed with tenderness, repeatedly expressed her love for me. It was a night filled with surprise and joy that made me rethink the idea of Love Island, hoping for a repeat. The next morning, I found Lucy already awake and ready to start the day with a quick shower and breakfast. Reluctantly, I left the cozy bed to join their conversation with Jack and William. Jack and Lucy looked a little tense, which made me wonder if it was related to work issues. I considered the possibility that William used the weekend to establish contacts and discuss business matters with them. As soon as I joined them, our conversation turned to a different topic, and we spent the rest of the day relaxing by the pool with friends. In the evening, we went to dinner, and I couldn't help but pay attention to Lucy's choice of outfit. She looked absolutely gorgeous in a stunning red satin evening dress and stylish heels. Later, William asked us to go to the office, where we were accompanied by a security guard. William sat in a luxurious high-backed leather armchair, and I sat on the sofa opposite Lucy, who seemed to keep her distance. After a moment of silence, William finally spoke. "Mark, I have a personal offer for you." "Okay," I replied, despite my confusion. I managed to remain calm while William spoke. He explained that he had enjoyed working with Lucy and getting to know her better over the past few months. There was a strong friendship between them, but the mention of a relationship made me wary. William then casually suggested spending the rest of the weekend with Lucy, offering to make up for the time she would have spent with him. "I'm planning to transfer $100,000 to your shared account," he said. I was sure it was a joke, and I couldn't help but tease him. "William, you seem to be quite stingy. Didn't Robert Redford offer $1 million for Demi Moore?" No one else found it funny, and William continued. "Charlotte will enjoy your company, and I would appreciate it if you would entertain her." I looked at Lucy, expecting a laugh, but she looked more worried. "Mark, this is serious. William wants me to join him, and I think we should think carefully," she said. My anger toward him intensified, and when I turned around, I noticed the guard had come closer without me even noticing. I was amazed at how he managed to do that without me sensing it. William reassured me by saying, "I guarantee that your wife fully agrees with this plan. It's a harmless idea. We'll all have fun, and you'll leave with a substantial amount of money." I exchanged a glance with Lucy and added, "Perhaps because of Demi Moore's indecision, the price was different." Lucy reacted to my remark, but wisely decided not to say anything. As I tried to concentrate, it became increasingly difficult for me to control my breathing. I looked at the guard and noticed a sudden change in his attitude. He seemed wary and attentive to my movements, which was understandable, given my overwhelming desire to punch William in his insincere face. I asked, "No rotating, huh?" His military bearing was clear as he replied, "Sir," declining to comment further. "Do you often encounter similar behavior from your boss?" I asked. "I can't say, sir," Shane replied. "If I ran into your boss, would you be able to overwhelm me with your hands?" I suggested. Shane's smile was obvious when he responded, "Maybe we should just keep you in line, sir." Turning to William, I couldn't help but notice, "It's a good thing you took him with you. Otherwise, I would have been tempted to teach you a lesson." William remained unperturbed and urged me to slow down, reminding me that we were talking about a bet. Lucy interrupted me, urging me to think about our future and the money that could change our lives. From her words, I understood that she had developed this plan and really wanted to move forward. "Did the money offer come after you two decided on this plan?" I asked, looking for confirmation. When I got no answer, I continued, and I believe Charlotte was offered to sweeten the deal. Is she some kind of hired escort? William replied, actually, Charlotte is my close friend. Besides the fact that she is rich, she also works as a high-class escort, carefully choosing the contracts she is interested in. You can be sure that meeting her will be unforgettable. They both seemed prone to debauchery. Lucy grimaced again, but chose to remain silent. Well, William, you can keep your money to yourself. Lucy expressed her true thoughts. This is my body, and I can manage it myself. Being close and connected to other people can be a pleasant experience for both parties. William and I may feel sympathy for each other, but that doesn't diminish our love. I'm sure you and Charlotte will have a great time too. Her words slowly reached me, making me think. The fact is, my beloved wife, that I have no feelings for anyone else, and this is more important than you think. This betrayal of trust, the intrigues behind my back, have destroyed my faith in you. How can I trust you again if you were able to do it once? Lucy answered quickly, You're overreacting. I've always been honest with you, no cheating or secrecy. I'm telling you the truth. I need to take care of something first, but I promise I'll come back to focus on our relationship. If you really care about me, you'll support me in this decision. Just think of the amazing opportunities that can open up thanks to this money. Family vacations, and much more. Please don't use our children as an excuse, because we don't necessarily need money. And my decision to come back to you is not guaranteed. Your supposed honesty only matters if we both agree with it. And you seem to have consulted only with someone who doesn't care about our interests. Money is just a cover for what you really want to do. I guess the money and Charlotte are your insurance because you didn't expect me to give my consent. And you were right. Even with a financial incentive, I still won't be able to support him. I objected. Yes, I admit that I have feelings for William and crave something fresh and unique, but it shouldn't ruin our relationship. I never wanted to deceive you. Do you really believe this is the right choice? Have you already made up your mind? Even dressing up for him? Don't resist, my dear. You don't want to deal with the consequences. What do you mean? If you resist or try to get a divorce, you will end up losing everything. Your home, your children, even your job might be at risk. You don't need all this. Just accept the situation. It will be much easier this way. Till tomorrow, and always remember that I love only you. I have to go. I took a deep breath, feeling that I couldn't stay in this place any longer and not fall apart. Getting to my feet, I staggered and lost my balance, heading for the door. Even though I could hear Lucy calling me, I kept walking. When I reached the hallway, Charlotte came up to me and hugged me comfortingly, assuring me that everything would be fine. Turning abruptly to her, I asked, And who am I to you? Some kind of consolation prize? With that, she left, her head held high. I kept walking until I reached the courtyard, feeling unwell. I heard footsteps behind me and was disappointed to see that it was Shane and not Lucy. Shane, please leave me alone, I begged. I need to make sure you're not going to do anything rash, he replied. I asked, feeling lost. Mark, you don't look well. Just sit against the wall, Shane advised. I raised my knees and concentrated on deep, slow breathing. I felt weak and didn't have the strength to argue. It seemed like a long time, but it probably only took a few minutes before I calmed down. That's when I saw Shane sitting next to me. Thanks, I guess. I don't really understand what happened, I admitted. It could have been anxiety or a panic attack. You looked very pale, but you seem to be feeling better now, Shane said. If we're talking about bad ideas, is there any way out of the situation? I asked. Shane replied bluntly, We won't be able to leave the island today. There are no boats, and the plane and the pilot are busy elsewhere. You could try to call for help, but a marital quarrel is not considered an emergency. I'm glad that you're sure of her infidelity. She doesn't seem to understand that. I said, I was already starting to doubt myself. What should I do now? I can't even talk to him because of you. I apologize for the inconvenience caused, Shane said. I would like to help, but unfortunately, I can't risk losing my job. Take the time to think about your options and develop a plan. Everything that needs to be done can wait until Monday. It's like serving in the army. Build a strategy, stay calm, and keep your intentions a secret. The problem is that I don't know what to do. It looks like they have everything under control, so I'll have to wait until tomorrow and Monday while you look after me." After a moment of silence, Shane offered again, "A ship with cargo is due to arrive early on Monday morning. You could use it instead of flying home on a crowded plane. None of us want to be accused of kidnapping or imprisonment. I might even decide to join you on the ship. This contract is starting to lose its appeal for me. I don't like being on the bad side, even if it pays well. This offer is very useful. I just need to live until tomorrow. I have a thought. Let's take a walk around the island tomorrow morning so as not to be distracted. And don't forget about Charlotte. She's a wonderful girl. It looks like you have nothing to lose now. If you prefer not to return, you can rest in one of the cabins today." "No, I'm going back to our room. Maybe she'll change her mind. Who knows?" Although she didn't change her mind, I surprisingly managed to fall asleep, probably due to fatigue. The next morning, I hurriedly changed into my gym clothes and rushed down the stairs, eager to avoid any collisions and leave with Shane. Unfortunately, my plans were disrupted when I entered the dining room. The room was silent. I took some fruit for a quick snack and heard whispers of reassurance from those around me, with comments like, "It's okay, I'll be back." Suddenly, Jack and his wife approached me. "Look, Mark," Jack said, "we all face setbacks. Just go with the flow. It's nothing personal." He pays attention to other wives, but continues to show great generosity. While he was talking, I couldn't help but notice that a blush was starting to appear on his wife's neck. At that moment, Lucy and William entered the room. Lucy looked absolutely radiant, full of confidence, until she saw me. Her smile faded, and she immediately let go of William's hand, coming over to greet me with a kiss or hug. I kept my distance from her and looked around the room. I couldn't believe my stupidity and thought, "Oh, for God's sake." It seemed like everyone already knew what was going to happen before the weekend even started. Realizing this, I started to get ready to leave, but before I could, Lucy intervened and said, "Please stay, Mark. Let's have a good time with our friends anyway, and make the most of this day together." I looked around and noticed that all eyes were on me. Some were looking forward to what would happen next, while others were clearly amused by the situation unfolding before them. "I'm sorry, but no," I said firmly. "He paid for your presence, so he has the right to keep you here. But before I leave, I need to discuss something important with everyone here. It seems like this weekend has been planned for a long time, so it's only fair that you all listen to me." The group was stunned, exchanging worried glances. Turning to Jack and Margaret, I expressed my gratitude and said that I wouldn't have agreed to come this weekend if not for their invitation. "I never thought that you would be involved in something so shameful. You seem to support his actions, as if you're part of a vicious group of bystanders. I hope that hurting me has given you some kind of unhealthy pleasure." I could see they were uncomfortable. It was obvious this wasn't what they had in mind. "And Lucy, you're not innocent either," I continued. "This is deeply personal. I can't just forget about your involvement in the destruction of a marriage. Using children as a bargaining chip is inexcusable. I won't let anyone hurt my children." Lucy said firmly, "I won't hurt them." She added, "You're exaggerating the situation. It was just a short affair, an adventure, and it shouldn't affect us. I've already told you that I love you." I quickly interjected, I see the beginning of your attempt to defend yourself. It doesn't have any weight. I know that you organized this with that stupid captain, so let's see what you hope to achieve. I dare say that at stage A, there's an assumption that we'll stay in this situation since you're trying to involve me in events and make them seem normal before we return home. In addition, you and your friends are downplaying the significance of what happened, already starting to tell the story from your point of view. No doubt, you think I shouldn't overreact, sulk, or act childish. I have to grow up and drop my ego and pride. But you understand that such an approach won't be effective. As part of my mitigation process, we are moving to stage B. After the weekend, you allow me to resume my relationship with you. We spend intimate moments and sometimes explore new sensations. It is expected that these meetings will improve our relationship and make it even stronger than before. Darling, please don't let my sense of loss drag on for too long." Lucy glanced nervously at William as his words resonated with her. "In addition, we will receive the promised monetary compensation from him. We can use the money earned from your illegal activities to take the children to Disneyland and show them Mickey Mouse. Many of them seem to be concerned about the idea. If we can't come to an agreement, then we'll move on to stage C. I continued. You mentioned this idea last night. If I really loved you, I would let you do it. You've been a wonderful wife for 15 years. It's just one night something for you. Yes, it can make me less determined having devoted 15 years of my life to you. What can I show? Ill treatment? You knew that I would never agree, and yet you manipulated me, showing complete disregard for my feelings. Your plan to continue this behavior will not work. You seem to be feeling anxious right now. Perhaps it would be better to give me time to calm down. Give me a week or two to think about it. Let me try to forget about my problems at the bar, and then come to me begging for forgiveness. This is stage D. When you sincerely regret your actions, you didn't know how much pain your act would cause me. If you had known, you wouldn't have done it. You begged and cried, showing your love, and it almost convinced me. But when you walked hand in front of everyone, looking smug and pleased, it became clear that you had no remorse or guilt, but only a desire to humiliate me. Your phase D attempt is bound to fail. If all else fails, a contingency plan can become indispensable. In the case of phase E, you should think about the threats you can resort to, taking all the money in the house and turning the children against me. There were hints that I might lose my job. William is willing to pay for the services of top-class lawyers on your behalf. I'm afraid I will end up alone, destitute, and abandoned. You can even offer to move in with him and live happily ever after with our children. William's abrupt movement caught my attention, almost making me grin. It seems that the lover is not enthusiastic about children, I commented. Lucy hesitated before speaking. This situation is not as serious as you think. Maybe we should calm down a bit and think about it. I replied sharply, we've already tried to do this, Lucy. It's time to speak out. Lucy nodded. That's exactly what I was thinking about last night. And I came to the conclusion that everything will be better for everyone, especially for the children, if we go our separate ways. Living in a stressful and unhappy family does not benefit anyone. Let's face it, such deceptive behavior will not lead to happiness. I'm not satisfied with the current situation, I said. Despite your attempts to distance me from the children, they are old enough to see the truth and know that I am a good father who has a positive impact on their lives. I believe that when your family and friends find out about your actions, they will not support you. Money has never been my priority. It has always been yours. There was a heavy silence in the room. Everyone sat in stunned silence, their eyes wide like goldfish. Does anyone have any more advice? I asked sarcastically. No, came the reply. That's what I thought. And one more thing, Jack. You can take your work and shove it where the sun doesn't shine. I'll see you in court for constructive dismissal, I said, my voice firm. This was a good reason when my livelihood depended on a client sleeping with my wife. With that, I angrily walked out, leaving the room in tense silence. As always, Shane was right behind me. Shane giggled as we left and remarked, "Great move. It looks like you really took the advice to keep your plans to yourself seriously." I couldn't help but smile back and admit, "Yeah, looks like I messed up." Laughing, Shane added, "It's a good thing you didn't join the army. You wouldn't have lasted a day." With that, we left the building. Shane took his backpack and walked briskly along the shore. I found that I could barely stand on my feet and began to wonder if this was a mistake. As we walked, Shane's voice could be heard ahead, arguing that physical torment was just a distraction from real mental anguish. My aching muscles and labored breathing seemed to agree with his words. The scenery in front of us was spectacular, and Shane's stories about his service in the British Army were pleasantly distracting. During our journey, we walked for several hours, first moving north around the island, then along the rugged coastline, and eventually reached the peak in the center of the island. When I finally caught my breath, Shane suggested that I run back since the terrain was sloping downhill. Trying to keep up with him, I couldn't help but wonder if he had deliberately slowed the pace to cheer me up or make fun of me, depending on how you look at it. By noon, we were back. I was completely exhausted and admitted that I had underestimated my level of physical fitness. Shane, who was barely able to stand, assured me that I was actually quite fit and shouldn't be too hard on myself. He even mentioned that he had been a military physical training instructor in the past. When I returned to my room, I noticed that Lucy was nowhere to be found. I couldn't help but wonder if my wife was working even harder to earn her fee. After taking a quick shower, I felt hungry and headed to the dining room, but was disappointed not to see William and Lucy there. Shane was there too, looking as lively as ever in a formal suit. William, who always radiated confidence, spoke up, and I realized that an apology was about to be made. I have never faced such situations with my connections before, and I absolutely do not want to harm your marriage. Unfortunately, it looks like I've already done that. I refuse my request to spend a night with your wife, and I'm ready to increase the compensation. William handed me a piece of paper, and when I opened it, I found a check for $250,000. My eyes met Lucy's tear-stained face, and I couldn't help but comment. "You had to do something really impressive to earn that amount, baby," I said, and her eyes flashed with anger. "That's not the point," she replied. "We made a mistake, and we're trying to fix it." "William showed only respect and sincere concern for your feelings," she continued. I couldn't help but laugh at her words. "So, what does a gentleman mean to you? Did he thank you when he was done?" "Let's not be sarcastic, Mark," she said. "We made a mistake by misjudging your reaction. It was a rare opportunity for all of us. You should be grateful to Lucy for sacrificing herself for you and your children." "But was it really a mistake?" I retorted. "I expressed my disapproval of your plan, but you carried it out anyway. You had the opportunity to stop at any moment, but you only did so after fulfilling your own desires. It looks like you made a mistake with my reaction as well." With that, I tore up the check. "I only prevented you from engaging in illegal activities, my dear. As for cheating, I'm not sure I can fix it." The tears flowed instantly. I looked at the others and asked, "What motivates you to act this way? Is it control or the excitement of stalking someone else's wife? Either way, you look pathetic. Honestly, at 48, you're still acting like a kid who only takes toys because he can. Don't you have more important things to devote your time to?" William laughed and replied, "I run an international corporation and donate millions to charity. I have something to do with myself. Despite this, my research shows that you actually inherited the corporation and it's experiencing difficulties under your leadership. And as for charity, just attending events and raising money isn't such a difficult task. When was the last time you really rolled up your sleeves and extended a helping hand to someone in need? I doubt very much that you are capable of this. It seems you are too self-absorbed and preoccupied with manipulating others. Obviously, you like the prospect of humiliation, especially when everyone is involved. I'm sorry, Lucy, but in this situation, it's not just about satisfying your desires. He had affairs with the wives of all the board members, so you're not alone in this. Perhaps it's time for you to grow up and mature, look for meaningful connections, contribute to improving other people's lives with your resources, and stop acting stupid." For the first time, I saw him speechless, showing a hint of self-doubt. I continued advising Shane to throw away the useless item until I felt compelled to address him directly. Shane tried to hide a smirk by turning to his companions, hinting that it was time for them to leave before safety became an issue. I had a quick snack and went to the beach, hoping to stay away from the rest of the group. As soon as I decided that the beach was completely clear, I came across Charlotte lying in a hammock with a book. If she used to be stunning, now when she smiled, she just shone. When I got to her, I started, "I'm sorry about last night," but before I could finish, she interrupted me. "There's no need to apologize," she said. "I thought you would accept the offer. That's why I came to you. Your reaction was understandable, and your speech at breakfast was impressive. I completely agree with you." When you left, Lucy started crying, and William looked confused. I enjoyed every moment. "Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that, given your current situation," she added. I replied, "Thanks. I'm fine. I'm starting to feel relieved that understanding has finally come. I'm tired of being constantly told that my problems are insignificant. Have you noticed that William doesn't know how to behave with you at all? He's never faced rejection before and is not used to navigating moral dilemmas. Did he try to bribe you with more money?" "Yes. Right before I came down, he offered me $250,000. "What a stupid thing to do," I said. I warned him against it, but he's used to using money as a means to get his way. He'll pay for it, both professionally and personally. Charlotte was a great conversationalist. She listened attentively when I talked about my marriage and children. It was obvious that she was smart and educated. She seemed surprised that Lucy had left, believing that there must be some kind of agreement or unhappiness in our marriage. I thought about it and realized that it was just a sudden and unexpected betrayal. Charlotte seemed to be completely infatuated with a man who knew how to charm women. Although the conversation was pleasant, it didn't have much depth, if you know what I mean. As we talked further, I began to feel more relaxed. It's obvious that you have sincere feelings for her, she said. Your reaction to suggestions and during breakfast must be very difficult for you. I just shrugged my shoulders in response. I'm sorry I got involved in this, she said. It's not your fault. I just need to get through another night. I answered, thinking that maybe I could find a way to escape. In response, she smiled again, her smile becoming even more captivating. Maybe I can help with that, she suggested. At dinner, they were stunned to see me there. Lucy was no longer sitting next to William. The meal continued as usual, despite Lucy's attempts to strike up a conversation with me. When Lucy suggested going to bed early, I politely declined, saying I had other things to do. When Charlotte elegantly approached the table, my confusion increased. She hugged me, and together we left the hall, heading for the beach hut. At first, we intended to just leave together and teach Lucy a lesson. But when Charlotte hugged me, I felt at peace. Our kids helped relieve the tension from the previous day. I briefly thought about how to preserve moral principles while adhering to my ideas of good and evil, but when I looked at Charlotte, I realized that Lucy had already betrayed our marriage vows. The night I spent with Charlotte was extraordinary. I was fascinated not only by her physical beauty, but also by her calm, confident demeanor. Her every gesture seemed light and precise. Strangely, I wasn't thinking about Lucy, and I didn't feel guilty. The painful memory of Lucy with William was so strong that it drove out all remnants of regret. I quickly got to the boat with supplies, caught a taxi to the airport, and boarded my scheduled flight home. After picking up the children, I tried to find out how they spent the weekend. I made up a vague story that their mom and I had a disagreement, but I assured them that we would sort it out. Just as I was talking about going out to eat, Lucy suddenly appeared in the house, dragging our heavy suitcase with her. The children hurried upstairs to pack, exclaiming, "Hi, Mom." Lucy grinned and offered, "Eating is a great idea. Just give me a few minutes to get ready." "I'd rather you didn't do that, Lucy," I replied. "I don't know how much time I will have with the children, so I think it would be better if we went without you." When I first met William, I immediately felt a connection. He radiated energy, confidence, strength, and charisma, reminding me of the ageless heroes of classic films. It seemed strange to me that you didn't show any of these gallant qualities when I was with you. Our casual flirting soon escalated into lunches and dinners, stoking excitement and making me feel giddy. His kiss goodnight after dinner almost melted me, but I stood my ground and tried to let him know about it. William's mention of his past open relationships made me think that you wouldn't mind the idea either. When William proposed, I had a feeling that the financial aspect might convince you. With Jack's support, we started making plans for the weekend. The weekend started off great, and I found that I enjoyed your company so much that I almost wanted to abandon all our plans. Looking back, I regret what I did. William assured me that everything would be fine and advised me to relax. Both he and Jack said that I should expect you to decline the offer, but give you time to calm down. When we met him, a spark immediately passed between us. He exuded charisma, self-confidence, authority, and attractiveness that reminded me of the iconic leading men from classic movies. But I couldn't help but notice that you seemed to lack those qualities when we were together. Afterwards, our initial infatuation turned into meals together, which made me freeze in anticipation. His kiss at night almost melted me, but I made it clear to him that I would be true to my promises. To give you time to calm down, we decided to give you some freedom, but your reaction was not at all what we expected. It was obvious that you were upset, and it took us by surprise. Although I was tempted to follow you, William convinced me that everything would work out. He was planning to meet Charlotte, so when you didn't come back, I assumed you were with her. After waiting so long, I felt relieved and wanted to be with William. His kiss assured me that I would be able to cope with everything that lay ahead. He took me to his bedroom and took such gentle care of me, making me feel like a precious treasure. I felt really valuable. That night was magical. But when I woke up in the dark, I was disoriented, mistaking the man lying next to me for you. Realizing that it was someone else made me feel guilty and wonder about your location and emotions. William, the man next to me, woke up and kissed me, dispelling my guilt and reminding me of the special bond we shared. When I was brushing my teeth in the morning, William crept up behind me, and we ended up in the same bed again. It was everything I had dreamed of, and I felt happy and contented. I kissed William and thanked him for the amazing night we had together. Holding his hand, we went down the stairs to the dining room, looking forward to another evening together. But when I saw you, my world collapsed. I panicked when you exploded with anger. Everything didn't go as planned. It was obvious that you weren't close to Charlotte. Despite this, I expected you to rush at him in anger, but I wasn't prepared for the degree of rage you showed. Your icy malice was really disturbing. You approached the situation with a sense of logic, refuting almost all my prepared arguments. With William's support, they seemed more convincing, but you destroyed them in a matter of minutes, making them weak and ineffective. I tried to keep my position, but I felt like I was shaking. When you left, I burst into hysterical sobs. William looked uncertain for the first time. When I woke up, I started looking for you, but you were nowhere to be found. Then Jack and William decided to stop everything by offering more money. Later that day, when we offered you additional funds, I was surprised at how things had changed. William's presence seemed unimportant to me, almost insignificant. He seemed very small and irrelevant. At first, I was fascinated by his domineering presence. I believed every word he uttered with confidence, but then that sense of authority began to weaken. He tried to convince me that we could have fun without putting my marriage at irreparable risk. Unfortunately, our plans were upset, and I felt insecure and lost, overcome by irrational anger. I naively believed that I could prolong my stay on the island and continue to have fun, but I came across a calm but firm rebuke from Jack. "Don't be silly, Lucy," he warned. "If you want to save your marriage in any way, you have to apologize. It's important that you be sincere and truly believe in everything you say." He was unwavering in his decision, and it seemed unlikely that he would change his mind. Personally, I agreed with everything he said. During breakfast, I was shocked when Jack firmly told William that they would never come back. He also added that you are a good guy who does not deserve to participate in the chaos we are causing, and advised William to take his words to heart and think about growing up. I was surprised when I saw you at dinner later. Despite my attempts to start a conversation with you, you just ignored me. I was devastated when you left with Charlotte. I had the urge to chase after you, but what words could I say? I was the one who pushed you to leave, and throughout the trip, I tried to rationalize the senseless intimacy. A feeling of anger and betrayal overwhelmed me, but then I realized that I was to blame for such actions. Worse, my behavior was intentional and exposed to the public. Maybe I deserved it. Maybe this will serve as a wake-up call for both of us to change something and save our relationship. The flight back without you made me face the reality of my failed marriage. You somehow managed to leave the island before us, and I didn't even talk to you properly after that incident. When I thought about my actions, I was overwhelmed by a wave of guilt. I tried to comfort myself with thoughts of money, but the tears turned into uncontrollable sobs, bordering on hysteria. Jack and Margaret were increasingly worried about my health. When I got home, you were there, but you didn't want me to join you and the kids for dinner. It was hard for me to stay calm until you left, and then I couldn't help but cry again. The fact that I was left without dinner made me afraid of what my future life would be like. Gathering my strength, I tried to come up with something new I could say to you when you got back. The difficulty was that everything I came up with was similar to what you had already heard. I was too ashamed to ask my mom or friends for advice. When you returned home, the children immediately went to their rooms, immersed in video games and phones. I stood in the kitchen and looked at Lucy, feeling like a complete stranger to her. Can we talk about this properly? I shrugged, realizing that we needed to solve the problem sooner rather than later. So I postponed the conversation. I'm really sorry, Mark. I promise you that everything that happened was a one-time thing, and my devotion to you remains as strong as ever. I did it just for the money because it could have greatly improved our family's life. I did it for us, not for selfish reasons. Our relationship was strong, and money was not a problem. It looks like you couldn't resist the temptation to be with him. It must have been exciting. There were dinners, lunches, and much more. In the end, it looks like everyone had a good time. Lucy, this is all nonsense, and you know it perfectly well. This was not just a one-time mistake. It was a calculated act of betrayal, filled with arrogance and selfishness, qualities that I find completely disgusting. And now I've discovered that I don't like you at all. You did the same thing to that other woman. No, I didn't. I was looking for retribution because nothing else could make you understand. You were so self-absorbed that you didn't even notice how your actions affected me. I wouldn't even think about it if I had a faithful wife. I hope it hurts you. I was deeply hurt by this situation and hoped that maybe you could sympathize with my pain, but I didn't plan it in advance and didn't tell anyone, which ended up embarrassing me. How long did your secret plan take? And was this your first time with him? Her eyes widened in surprise, but she soon realized that it was a fair question. It was the first time we had lunch together, and I felt his affection for me. I thought Jack and Margaret were trying to gauge my interest during a four-person dinner. For the first time in my marriage, I suddenly found myself attracted to another man. Despite his captivating confidence, I understood that from a moral point of view, it was wrong, and I fought the temptation, eventually avoiding an affair. Later, William came up with the idea to think about an open relationship with you, perhaps even switching partners. We briefly discussed this topic one evening, but it was clear that you would not agree. Then he suggested the idea again, believing that offering money would make it more acceptable to you. As the trip approached, our concern grew, and we decided to invite Charlotte to confirm your agreement. I wasn't thrilled with the idea, but at that moment, I just wanted it to work out. I thought that even if you didn't quite agree, we could still fix it. But during breakfast, you completely destroyed those hopes, and I began to realize the seriousness of my actions. Was it all worth it? Lucy hesitated before replying. No, absolutely not. I was so passionate about him and what he had to offer. I never wanted to hurt you. We went straight to phase D, causing unintended pain. Nevertheless, it was obvious from your behavior at breakfast that you liked it. Now you're just telling me what you think I want to hear. I have to admit, I really liked it. It was pleasant, but not excellent, just different. It was an exciting new experience, and I was fascinated by it. He was skilled and knew how to please, but it was only for one time. Please don't destroy our family because of a temporary error in judgment. I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. It's ironic because that's how I perceive what you've already done. You destroyed our family in a moment of weakness. It's entirely your fault, not mine. You're right. I take full responsibility for this. I'm so sorry. I love you more than anything in the world, but let's be honest, that's not really true, is it? You gave him a piece of your heart, whether you admit it or not. Your love wasn't enough to be faithful to me. How can I trust you again? I trusted you completely because I never thought that you would betray me like this. Maybe I never knew who you really were. Right now, I can't bear to even look at you, let alone act like nothing happened. Lucy was stunned by the accusation. You can't be serious. You love me. I can feel it. I never thought I'd lose you, but it was obvious that you only care about yourself and your needs, not about me and the kids. Love alone is not enough. I tried to calm my feelings and overcome the conflict and anger. After a long silence, I continued speaking. Listen, Lucy, even if we decide to stay together and try to deal with this as you suggest, things will never be the same again. You have destroyed the trust and the strong bonds of care that we once had. Do you remember how we were always focused on each other and our children? We promised to always protect each other from harm. I never thought that you would be the one to hurt me. Mark, you are very dear to me. I made a terrible mistake, and am ready to do anything to fix it. We can't let this ruin our marriage. You broke my heart, and you used manipulation to achieve your goals. That's not the way to treat someone you really care about. Lucy was speechless, not knowing what to say. We need to talk about our children. I think they will be better off in different families, not in a toxic environment. Therefore, divorce may be the best choice for their well-being. I know you probably have a good chance of winning custody, but please don't try to deprive me of the opportunity to see our children. It's also in your best interest because they respect me. It's hard for you to set boundaries, and I can't help but find irony in that. They're already testing your boundaries. It will be good for all of us if I continue to participate in their lives. Lucy shrugged her shoulders. Lucy, please, no matter what, don't keep me away from our children. Don't alienate me. I'm not a bad guy. I treat them well and love them deeply. You haven't seen my true anger yet. I will do my best to fight you, even if it means spending all our money on lawyers and making us both suffer. She agreed, saying she would never do that. She admitted that I am a great father and that our children rely on me for support and walks. I was surprised by her initial statement, as it looked sincere and genuine. I warned her to be careful, as she was endangering Phase E. I couldn't shake the feeling that she wanted us to break up, even if she knew me so well. Why would she do that? Lucy stubbornly insisted on her own, denying any intention to separate us. She confessed her selfishness, believing that she deserved something more. She convinced herself that she could get both, but now she regretted her actions. She asked why I didn't intervene that night, and why I just left. Unable to handle the situation, I had no choice but to leave. Afterwards, the consequences seemed insignificant to me. I realized that I lost you when you resorted to any means to be with someone else. That conversation sealed our fate long before you ended up in his bed. Maybe everything was doomed from the moment you started planning everything, talking and negotiating with him for weeks. The fact that he let you leave without trying to stop you made it easier to break up. There was no turning back, and now the end has come. The marriage broke up in less than 4 days. Fortunately, we managed to get divorced without the help of a psychologist. Lucy didn't seem to want to explain her actions, which disappointed me. I was hoping that a professional would help us sort out her misconceptions, but yet she kept one promise. We managed to share custody of the children fairly evenly. She even took responsibility for the situation in front of the children, without going into details. They were old enough to understand this and often chose where to stay. At that stage of life, when parents are perceived as drivers and suppliers of money, I consider them wonderful children who reacted to the parting with great maturity. Children have an amazing ability to recover. Under the terms of the divorce agreement, Lucy received ownership of our house until the children came of age, which gave her the opportunity to sell it or buy it from me. Nevertheless, I was already leaning toward this option for the sake of the children, choosing the right solution so that they could continue to study at the same school. It turned out to be a reasonable decision. When it was time for the kids to go to college, the value of the property increased significantly, and Lucy decided to buy out my share. It turned out to be a very profitable investment for me. As for how she could afford it, we had $250,000 left, which we split in the divorce. As I did with Charlotte, I understood that I couldn't stand up for moral principles forever. I must admit, I am a practitioner. The divorce fees seemed insignificant to me compared to the costs of marriage and the happiness we once shared. After quitting my job and receiving compensation to avoid a possible employment tribunal, I started my own web design business. Despite Lucy's attempts to reconcile, I still showed no interest in her. Was ending the relationship the best solution? It was terrible, although there were no clear winners. The expected threats and consequences never materialized. That night remained unforgettable and unforgivable for me. But there is something powerful about looking in the mirror and truly appreciating the face that looks back at me. As much as I knew, William no longer showed interest in the chandelier. It really upset her. Most likely, she had hoped for a serious relationship with him. The children told me that they heard Lucy arguing loudly with him on the phone and then crying. It was later revealed that Lucy was pregnant by William, but he forced her to have an abortion. 10 years later, Lucy never remarried. She was left completely alone after our daughters went to college. Her parents were shocked when Lucy admitted that she had agreed to intimacy with another man for the sake of money and distanced themselves from her. That's how stupidity and the love of money can lead to an unhappy life.